All right, so Pisces. Pisces is the 12th and final sign of the zodiac. It is a water sign as far as its element, it is immutable as far as its modality, and it is a feminine sign as far as its gender. And the first archetype I have for Pisces is the mermaid. So the mermaid is hypnotic. She's magical. She's alluring. She's charming. The mermaid type is usually really popular. So just think. Actually, remember when I covered Libra and I talked about the pretty popular girl? She's kind of like that, only with an add extra dose of magic. Um, and Libra is ruled by Venus, and Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. But I always say especially Neptune just because Jupiter also rules Sagittarius and it fits Pisces. It does. But Neptune gives Pisces its unique Piscean qualities. And Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So it takes that Venus energy and it just magnifies it. And a lot of times it takes it to a more spiritual, ethereal place, and that's a good word to describe Pisces overall, but especially the mermaid, ethereal. They're very ethereal. Pisces is the sign that teaches people to believe in magic. And this mermaid type can really, really deliver that. They can be very psychic. They can be very witchy. They can be very. They can have powerful tongues. And that's that Jupiter energy too, where they can speak things into existence really easily. Like I said, they can make you believe in magic if you don't believe in magic. Let's see. They're usually highly attractive, though some can be ugly as hell. And it's just a sea creature thing. If you think about sea creatures, because Pisces rules the sea and the oceans, and if you think about sea creatures, they're usually very pretty or very ugly. Like there's no in between. Just and sometimes they can kind of look like fish too, with like big bulging eyes and just like their facial proportions can be kind of silly. Um, Sagittarius is like this too, but a lot of Sagittarians can look like horses, and even Leos actually. Leos can look like lions. It's kind of all the signs, but those three signs especially can kind of look like the animal that they represent. Um, but Pisces is also, that saying by Maybelline, maybe she's born with it. That's very Pisces because Pisces deals with casting an illusion. So it deals with makeup, but so does like a couple other signs like Libra and Cancer, etc., etc. But with Libra, the makeup is about bringing out your beauty. It's about accenting. It's about complementing your beauty. But with Pisces, makeup is about transforming and disguising. So you know those makeup videos that are here on YouTube and TikTok, and it's like this huge transformation. When you see the person at first, they're missing teeth, they have dark circles, they look like they're about 90 years old, and then they do their makeup, they look 20, they have pouty lips, they have nice teeth. That's very Pisces too. So Pisces could be either or. But moving right along, they could be shapeshifters, and the mermaid is a shapeshifter in multiple ways. It could be sort of a personality thing where every day they're a different person. And it makes sense just because within Pisces is all of the signs. Everything is Pisces, technically. The entire universe is Pisces, just because Pisces has no boundaries. So Pisces technically rules everything, which is might be hard for people to conceptualize at first, but I'm gonna try to like explain that in more detail in future videos. I always say that, but I am just because it's I've acid tripped like quite a few times, so I understand Piscean energy on an experiential level, and some people don't get that, and I do feel like Pisces is one of those signs that you have to experience it to understand. It's like Pisces is also considered the most psychic sign and the most magical sign, so it's kind of like when you have a very profound spiritual experience. It feels impossible. There are no words to explain it to a person, especially a person who's very closed off. It's like I can't tell you what happened because if I try to tell you what happened, first of all, the words would be very underwhelming in comparison to what I felt, and you're still gonna be like, okay, that's either you're crazy, or that just never happened, or it didn't happen the way you thought it happened, which makes sense because Pisces, like I said, is the sign of I think I said is the sign of illusion and delusion and confusion. And Pisces also deals with mental health issues. It deals with psychiatric wards and insane asylums and just being crazy as shit. So it makes sense, but they're kind of like those things, in my opinion, are two sides of the same coin. So you have being crazy and then you have being psychic, and I feel like they're just the same thing, just one is reversed. One is the healthy form, one is the unhealthy form. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, and this is very Pisces. Pisces is all Pisces is all about going off on a tangent. But I do want to say that fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. Um, Pisces is oh, I know what I was gonna say. So if you talk to a lot of traditional healers in pretty much all like indigenous cultures, they will tell you that people who are psychically gifted, a lot of times it manifests as mental health issues. And I have my own experiences, and I'm going to talk about that in the future. I really, really am, just because like I said, it's my own personal experience, and I do have Neptune in my first house conjuncting my ascendant. I'm not a very Piscean person, but that is the ruler of Pisces, so in a way, I'm very Piscean. And having that prominent Neptune, and especially in the placement that I have it, it can make you very psychic and very psychotic at the same time. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna go deeper into that just to explain what I mean by how mental health illnesses, mental health illnesses, and psychic ability are two sides of the same coin. And by the way, I'm not a mental health professional. I cannot diagnose you or guide you on your mental health journey. That's not what I'm here for. I am just speaking about my beliefs and my experiences. So back to the mermaid. So I don't know if I said this already, but they can be very popular. Like I said, they're alluring, they're magnetic, they're hypnotic. I mentioned how they can be shapeshifters, but even on a physical level, they can kind of transform in front of your eyes. Just kind of think about in Hollywood and movies and films, which all of those things are actually ruled by Pisces as well. Think about how, like in vampire movies, how when a vampire gets angry or aroused or bloodthirsty, how their face sort of transforms. That happens to Pisces. Like, pay attention to the Pisces that you know, and pay attention to the other people that you know, and pay attention to how they look when they're angry, especially. Pay attention to how they look. And as hoity-toity and as feminine as Piscean women are, especially the mermaids, when they get angry, they can be very intimidating to a lot of people. And pay attention especially to their eyes. That's what I want to say. Their eyes. A lot of times, especially Piscean people who are Caucasian, they'll have like a aquamarine sort of look to their eyes. It will be like very oceany, like a lot of light greens and blues in their eyes. And if they have darker eyes, a lot of times their eyes will be very reflective. Like they might have dark brown eyes, but if you're in a room with a lot of greenery, you'll see the green in their eyes because it'll be reflecting it really well. But yeah, their eyes especially can kind of appear to change colors. Especially if you look closely, it can kind of look like there's like different colors like swirling in their eyes. It's really cool. They can be really unreasonable if things don't match their high standards. Pisces is also a royal sign. It's ruled by two kings, Neptune and Jupiter. And this type of Pisces, the mermaid, is all about fulfilling a fantasy. So if you take the mermaid on a date, for example, and it's not to a five-star restaurant, you're not treating him or her, because this is male or female, you're not treating them to lobster and steak, and you didn't bring them a gift. And just any little thing that's not right, you're gonna get it. Because like I said, they can be very temperamental when it comes to stuff like that. And if you another thing about the mermaid, so different cultures have different beliefs about mermaids. So just keep in mind that nuance. But if you look at a lot of African and African diasporic cultures, and the African race is the race of Pisces. I might make videos about that. I don't know, just because talking about race can just get you can get real nasty real quick, especially when you're saying something negative about a race and a sign. So I don't know if I'm gonna make those videos, but it is fascinating to me. You don't see this conversation a lot in astrology circles, but it is something that kind of goes around. It is believed that the race of Pisces is the African race. I believe it. I didn't initially believe it, but after really diving deep for a few years with the sign of Pisces and just really examining just my own experiences and just what I know from the outside looking in at different African and African diasporic cultures, it does seems to be like that the African race is the race of Pisces. But anyway, back to African and African diasporic practices. Their beliefs and my beliefs on mermaids, the mermaids can be very bossy and very temperamental and very hard to please. And not even just mermaids, any spirit that is connected to, especially the ocean and the seas, they tend to be very Piscean, being that they usually bring the gifts of healing, they bring the gifts of psychic abilities. They tend to live in a very magical world under the sea. They tend to be extremely beautiful, but they can transform into something hideous and very scary. Yeah, they fit this sort of mermaid sort of archetype. And actually, even outside of Africa, and African cultures or African diaspora cultures, it seems that mermaids tend to have these sort of tropes, these sort of beliefs about them. I think just in American and modern Western culture, we're used to the Little Mermaid, and she's innocent and she's sweet, and that's a very valid side of the mermaid. That's a very valid side of Pisces. But more often than not, I think we see the more wrathful, hard to please side of the mermaid. And that's just because if you look at the world, as beautiful as she is, there's a lot of ugliness to it. And there's a lot of, especially in the Western world, there's a lot of monotony to it. Like it's very gray and very boring. And if you pay attention to the mermaid and a lot of other types of Pisces, Pisces is a sign of escapism, and it's part of the reason that it's a sign of escapism is because the real world is fucking boring to them. It's not magical. It's also part of the reason why Piscean people, especially the mermaid, can be addicted to drugs, because drugs make everything better. Like, yes, you can have a bad experience on drugs, but nine times out of ten, when people are drunk or they're high or whatever, they're having a good time, and it just it's how how people talk about hooking up with people when you're drunk. When you drink, the person you're trying to hook up with looks a lot better than they otherwise would if you weren't drunk. So, and Pisces does rule drugs and alcohol, and Pisces can have issues with addiction. But it just, Piscean things heighten your experiences and they make them just better. Or worse, because like I said, if you've ever had, like, for example, an acid trip that went bad. Now, I haven't had like a totally bad acid trip, but I have had a couple acid trips that kind of veered off a little bit, and the shit is intense. It's like, if you never experienced it, it's like being a kid and it's right before you're about to go to bed and you see a monster. That's what it's like. It's like there's you cannot convince a child that that monster is not real. You cannot convince a child that that monster is not going to hurt them, and that child is terrified in that experience. That's kind of what it's like. And Pisces does rule dreams and all that good stuff. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. So let me finish off the mermaid. Back to the transforming and the shape shifting. They can make for good actors because of this. Now, one part is because they transform, they shapeshift. Another part is because, once again, Pisces has everything in it. Pisces has Aries in it, has Libra in it, it has Scorpio in it, it has all those things in it. So it can be anything because everything goes into Pisces and everything comes from Pisces. So yeah, so that makes for good actors. And even on a deeper level, just because they can connect with people. And I'll get to that in a different type of Pisces. But Pisces, is easy to see yourself in a Pisces, and it's easy for a Pisces to see themselves in you. Also, I just want to point out a few Pisces that really exemplify this type. Lupita Nyong'o, Stormy Wellington, and Erykah Badu. Erykah Badu has this video on YouTube with Mark Riblet. Highly recommend that you watch it. It is like a fucking acid trip. Actually, if you look in the comments, a lot of people are saying it feels like I'm on fucking acid, and all they're doing is fucking vibing. They're just kicking it because Pisces. People with a lot of Pisces energy, especially the mermaid type, they don't really have to plan a good time. Because Pisces is all about going with the flow. They can just kind of go with the flow and just something magical happens. And it's that video is about a fucking hour long, but it's worth it. If you ain't got shit to do and you just cleaning your room, turn that video on and just vibe with them. You're gonna feel like you're high. Lupita Nyong'o was on a late night show as well, and her energy was absolutely hypnotic. And Stormy Wellington, you might not know who she is, but she's like a reality show person slash like money guru. She started off as a stripper, I want to say, in Florida. Her mother is Jamaican and her mother was a drug dealer, and that kind of influenced her. And that's very, very Pisces. Pisces can come from a hood ass background. Pisces is an energy that it can bring you just ease and blessings and just like luxury, or it can bring you a lot of trauma and hardship because Pisces has no boundaries, and Pisces is a sign of imagination and fantasy. So anything can happen in your imagination and fantasy. Anything can happen to you if you're very Piscean in your life. So and Pisces is also a sign that kind of like typically explores the dark side of life, but I'll get to that later. But yeah, she was a stripper first. She married a preacher, very Pisces. And then she divorced the preacher because he didn't make enough money. And that's very mermaid. The mermaid typically needs luxury. Mermaids, if you're this type of Pisces, please, and you're a woman, please do not marry a broke man. it's not gonna work out. Like I'm letting you know that. You know it's not gonna work out. I just think with Stormy Wellington, what happened to her is what happened to a lot of Piscean and mermaid women, especially. They go through, they experience the dark side, which has its perks. Fast money is one of them, but they experience the brutality of that life, just the coldness of that life. And I have nothing against strippers or sex workers or anything like that. It's the world's oldest profession. However, that world is a very cold, vicious, fucked up world. Most of the people who I've known and know who were strippers, sex workers, they have to be high or drunk to do their job. Just because, I mean, one, the people want them at their most lustful and sluttiest, usually. Nothing wrong with that. That's how you get off. But you probably don't want to be in that space with a bunch of dirty, nasty, funky old men in front of you. Um, just being real. Not that all older men are nasty, gross, and funky. I know some fine old men, but you know the type I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, just to be in that headspace every night, multiple nights a week, to be constantly objectified and minimized as just like a fuck toy or a fleshlight, that's gonna fuck with your head. Like, there's no way that's not gonna fuck with your head. It might be fun for the moment every now and then, but just to live in that space is gonna wear you out, especially for the sensitive Pisces. Pisces are hypersensitive. They're the only water sign without a shell. So water signs are automatically sensitive. But Scorpio and Cancer, they both have shells to protect them. Pisces doesn't have a shell to protect it. So it's feeling all of that shit all at once. It's gonna wear him down. Being about that life, and I mean being about that life as a part of just doing a profession that's darker. So be it sex work, be it selling drugs, be it being a robber. Pisces can be robbers. Being a killer, Pisces can be killers. Believe it or not, they can be killers. Doing any of those things for the average Pisces is going to wear them down. So then they go from one extreme to the other. So she went from stripper to preacher's wife. Just because, and I get it, because she wanted that purity. She experienced the worst side of Pisces, so now she wants to experience the best side of Pisces. And I'll go into that with a different type of Pisces in a few minutes. But she wanted to experience compassion. She wanted to experience just that innocent, pure love, which a lot of mermaids do eventually desire that, just because when you're chasing for just luxury and these superficial things, you often omit those other things that you still need. But yeah, that's what she did, and she realized that, oh wait, I'm not happy because I need my luxury too. So then I forgot what she did after that, but she ended up making a lot of money. She's worth $60 million, and I was watching some videos on her because like several months ago she was in a bunch of drama. So Pisces, like I said, they know how to they stay in drama, and they know how to stay in drama in a very entertaining way. But someone was saying that if you're around Stormy Wellington, you're gonna make some money, and that's very, very Pisces. It's very, very mermaid. The mermaid types who make a lot of money, they don't make a lot of money necessarily because of what they do. They make a lot of money because of who they are and the energy that they have. They carry an energy of abundance. Just think of the ocean. The ocean is never gonna run out of resources. We might pollute the shit out of it and kill it that way, but naturally the ocean doesn't run out of resources, and there is more ocean on this earth there is land. Not to mention all the treasures that are within the ocean. Not to mention all the aspects of the ocean that we've never explored. So there can be even it can be even more mineral rich than we can imagine. So just think of that. Just think of how the ocean just overflows. You know how there's that you know how there's that saying of my cup overfloweth. That's very Pisces. That's very ocean. They're just overflowing abundance. Um, there's also a video of Stormy Willis. She's in the back of her truck. She has a driver, of course. She has a driver, and she's in the mirror. She's discussing just all types of things, just like drama and just like her opinion, blah 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 blah. And there's a moment where she pulls out her camera. I'm not her camera, her makeup palette, and she's doing her makeup, and she's like, "I'm so beautiful. I'm so beautiful. I'm so beautiful." That's so fucking Pisces. That's so fucking mermaid. They can be obsessed with their own beauty. And like I said, they do often make for very beautiful people. But let me get off the mermaid because like I've talked about this fucking type for like 20 something odd minutes. Let me move on to the victim. So the victim is sort of the downtrodden version of Pisces. Pisces rules defeat, and while the feet, there are positive things that the feet represent, but the feet is also the lowest part of the body, and it is the part of the body that holds everything up. Assuming that you have feet. If you don't have feet, there's a different part of your body that sort of acts as your feet. So if you don't have feet and you're sitting in a wheelchair, that wheelchair slash your rear end acts as your feet. So this still applies to you if you don't have feet. Um, so the feet hold you up. We tend to ignore our feet. We tend to not take care of our feet like we should. And when I say we, I mean just humanity in general. There are people who are very high maintenance about their feet, but generally speaking, especially men, we are not taking care of our feet like we should. So it's a very neglected part of the body, and it does so much for you. And there's also a part of your body that some people are completely disgusted with. It doesn't matter how nice your feet are. It doesn't matter how manicured your feet are. It doesn't matter how clean your feet are. There are some people who just do not want to see your feet. They don't want them near them. This is how people view this type of Pisces. So I'm going to go over the type of victim that actually is a victim and the type of victim that isn't really a victim. So the victim, a lot of times they can have an upbringing of a lot of abuse. They can be the type of person, they can be similar to the scapegoat. When I mentioned Capricorn, when I talked about Capricorn, I mentioned the scapegoat type. This is basically the scapegoat within the sign of Pisces. And their lives can be just as bad as the Capricorn. Like I said, they can grow up abused. They can often deal with homelessness. Pisces is a sign of homelessness. Pisces is a sign that lack boundaries. So their caregivers, families, just people that they interact with in general can just lack boundaries with them, so they can be victims of a lot of sexual assault and sex crimes. They can be the victims of physical abuse, emotional abuse, you name it. There's a anime named Mushoku Tensei, and the main character is a very, very good sign of a very, very good sign, a very, very good example of this type of Pisces. And I'm just gonna spoil some of the anime for you because I doubt very many of you are gonna watch it because I don't think a lot of my viewers like anime. But anime overall is very, very Piscean. It's very, very Leo too. But back to Mushoku Tensei. So this guy, the main character, he is an outcast. He's Japanese. He's an outcast, and he ends up dying, and he's reincarnated in a different world where magic is real. He's actually a really, really, really good magician. That's very Pisces. But during this new life, he continues to have flashbacks about his more traumatic past life. And it's just that's very, very this type of Pisces, and there are probably Piscean people that you know who are actually experiencing this. So if you know a Pisces and they just have all these like irrational fears, it could be real trauma that happened in past life that they're having flashbacks about, and they just don't understand why they're afraid of these things, because after leaving one life, you kind of start to, those memories start to fade. It's kind of like thinking about your early life as a kid in this life. There's so much that has happened, but there's so little of it that you remember. The only thing you remember is the really good things and the really bad things. Like, you don't remember the day to day stuff, but it was a very real thing that happened. So that's kind of how past lives are. But anyway, back to Mushoku Tensei. So he has these past lives where he's just a complete shut in, and Pisces can do isolation. All he does is play video games all day, escapism, Pisces. Um, and throughout the show, you're getting glimpse of why he just stays in his room all day. And they show this one experience where he had where he was stripped naked um, by his classmates. He was stripped naked and he was tied to this gate, and everyone's taking pictures and teasing him. Pisces does real humiliation as well. So this is the type of shit that this type of Pisces tends to go with. Since this is the type of shit that this type of Pisces tends to experience. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of just real fucked up shit that has happened to them. Because like I said, Pisces doesn't have any boundaries. And when I say Pisces doesn't have any boundaries, sometimes Piscean people don't have boundaries, but a lot of times Piscean people, they don't have boundaries with other people, so other people a lot of times can think they can treat them any kind of way. Um, and honestly, if you remember, I mentioned that the African race is the race of Pisces, and I can't speak for a lot of other African and African descended people just because I don't know their histories as well as I know mine. Hell, I don't know a good chunk of my own history because, I mean, let's be honest, it's not taught in public schools. And if it is taught, it's taught in a very, very watered down way. Um, but yeah, so if you look at the African American experience, there's a lot of twisted shit that happens. If you think about how not too long ago, African Americans were routinely rounded up and lynched and set on fire. Mind you, these are innocent people who are just living their lives. They were rounded up, lynched, set on fire. People would just watch and eat and have picnics and take pictures and send those pictures as postcards. Use their body parts as souvenirs, eat them sometimes. That's the type of shit that happens to a lot of very Piscean people. And it's kind of makes me think of how not too long ago, black women were saying we're the least protected. It makes me think of this type of Pisces, just because just Pisces can be very unprotected because it has no boundaries. Now Pisces can also be the most protected. I'll get to that later. Remember, Pisces is ruled by two fish, and there's one fish going this way, one fish going the other way. So Pisces is ruled by two fish. These two fish represents the extremes of the different types of life. So it represents being very protected, being very unprotected. It represents being very compassionate, being not compassionate at all. So it represents everything. It represents the duality in everything. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, let's see. So the other type of victim is now. So there's that type of Pisces, and then there's the other type of Pisces who sort of plays the victim. Now, some Pisces who play the victim are playing the victim because they're used to being the victim. And I can kind of vibe with this just because, like I said, I have a prominent Neptune. And growing up, I was abused. And it is hard to come out of that just because being someone who was abused, at least I was very aware for the most part of how it transformed me. I was very aware that I had anger issues, I had boundaries issues, all because of all these things happening to me. And I'm very aware of how that caused me to act and react to new situations. So it's very easy to come from that space and say, well, all of these issues are because I'm abused. I'm still a victim. I'm still a victim. I'm still a victim. I'm still a victim. And there's some truth to that, but you do have to heal and move out of that space. So you have those types of victims who are playing the victim, but they're not really in a way. And then you have the Piscean people who've never been through anything. They're just hypersensitive. They want people to feel sorry for them. And everything that they're victimized by is the shit that they do. Pisces is also the sign of self-undoing. So sometimes Piscean people just make really bad fucking decisions and they blame the world for them. And so that's that other type of Piscean victim in a nutshell. I really don't need to break it down any further than that. We all know Pisces who are like that. We all know Pisces who put themselves in really stupid situations, make stupid decisions, and instead of looking at those decisions saying, oh, damn, that shit was dumb, I'm not doing that again, they blame it on everybody else. And I will say, from a person who has a prominent Neptune, that it is very hard for Piscean people to look in the mirror and say, "Hey, you're the wrong one." So just because Pisces, once again, they don't have a shield. So looking in the mirror and saying, "I'm the wrong one," hurts to a stronger descent. It hurts deeper for Piscean people than it hurts for other people. So, not an excuse, they still need to do that, but just be aware of that. Alright, so next we have the mirror. And the mirror is exactly what it sounds like. They reflect, first of all, they don't know who they are. A lot of times the mirror has no clue who the fuck they are. Just because they subconsciously, a lot of times, mimic the people around them. And they do it automatically. A lot of times they don't really have control over it. And you especially see this when they're little. And a lot of times it can manifest as an artistic talent. Like this type of Pisces can be really good at mimicking people. And they'll mimic people really good, and it could make for a good time, but if you pay attention to them, they're kind of always in that mode. Like if you know a Piscean person who's like this, they act different in every situation with each different person. And we all do this to a certain extent, but with this Piscean person is deeper than just what you're seeing. So they don't know who they are. They're constantly mimicking people. Like all Pisces, but these people will deal with this more extreme. A lot of people project onto them because when people are looking at this Pisces person, they're seeing themselves. So a lot of times if people have issues with themselves and they're interacting with a mirror, they're going to project all their anger on that person just because they think that person is showing them negative attributes that they actually have themselves. So they can deal with a lot of projection. They can deal with positive projection too, but it can be frustrating because I have Neptune in my first house conjuncting my ascendant, so I deal with this too. We deal with people projecting their fantasies onto us. For example, I remember I was on a dating site this was years and years and years ago, and this guy was talking to me, and he started basically fantasizing about me, and he was telling me, "Oh, I could see you in a club, like dancing, basically dancing with my shirt off and shit like that." And it was meant to be a compliment, but I fucking hate clubs. I've always hated nightclubs. I don't understand how you're supposed to socialize in a dark ass room. The music is loud as fuck. It's crowded as shit. Like, I don't get the appeal of a fucking club at all. I was like, I actually fucking hate clubs. I don't go to clubs. Like, I've been to a club maybe 5 times in my life and never had a good time. So, so I was just like, I don't do clubs. I don't like clubs. And he got mad at me. That's the thing about this type of Pisces too. When you shatter people's fucking illusions and fantasies about you, they tend to get a little irritated with you, or a lot irritated with you, just because they want you to be this fantasy. Now, this can make for a good actor, a good celebrity, a good a person, a great person of influence, because people can see themselves in you. And just think of Marilyn Monroe, who's a Gemini sun sign, but she also has Neptune in her first house conjuncting her ascendant. I think it's conjuncting her ascendant. A lot of famous people have this. I think Kylie Jenner has it. Um, there's a few other people. I think Kim Kardashian has it as well. A lot of people who are famous have this, and it's a good thing just because people can see themselves in you. People can see themselves in Marilyn Monroe. Jesus Christ is believed to be connected to both Pisces and Aquarius. And people see themselves in Jesus Christ. If you ask a Christian person who is Jesus Christ, they'll tell you he's Christian. You ask a Jewish person who Jesus Christ was, he'll tell you he's Jewish. If you ask the person who practiced magic who Jesus Christ was, they'll tell you he's a magician. If you ask the person who practiced hoodoo root work who Jesus Christ was, they'll tell you he's a hoodoo root worker. So no matter where you go, people identify with Jesus Christ. And that's that's like the upside of being a mirror. But like I said, the downsides is the projection and the people wanting you to be their fantasy.